we move towards the process of normalization. We'll have our differences government to government with Cuba on many issues, just as we differ at times with other nations within the Americas, just as we differ with our closest allies. There's nothing wrong with that.
Cuba is now off the United States list of state sponsors of terrorism, a big step which should help normalize relations between America and that nation. A man who was once one of the more powerful people in America is hammered with the feds, and people are pouncing. Bill Clinton's always happy to show up for an award as long as you grease the palm of his foundation. Another round of hate, guns, and cartoons on display, and another example of when people need to take a long, hard look at being offended over absolutely nothing. Menu set. Let's dish it out. Welcome to MidPoint, the founder of BigGovernment.com, editor at Breitbart.com, and Republican congressional candidate Michael Flynn, along with deputy editor of Opportunity Lives, a website highlighting positive conservative solutions for America, Gillum Ferguson. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Ed.
All right, Mike, I'm going to start with you. Cuba is off the terror list. Panic, right, Mike? Everybody panic. It's all over right now, and we're going to be invaded immediately.
Oh, my God. Well, what I will say is probably news to the political dissidents still in jail in Havana. The problem with the Obama administration is that they do things like this, whether it's Obama, whether it's Cuba or Iran, and we don't get anything in return. I mean, there's no political change that's going on in Cuba. They haven't changed how they act or how they police their citizens. They still jail dissidents all the time. And we're just going to take them unilaterally off the terror list. I just think it's a really bad precedent, and we at least ought to be better negotiators on this.
Gillum, it is fair to say that we're really not getting much out of it. The president is trying to normalize relations. People are falling on both sides of the issue here, but is this really as big a deal as people are making out of it is the question.
I would say that it is a big deal because it just highlights this this culture of appeasement that the Obama administration has been putting forward. Mike's right when he points out the similarities with Iran, and that we are basically giving these concessions without making Cuba or Iran changing anything that they're doing. And then they don't have to change, but then we have to change and give them all these concessions. And I don't think that's the right way to go, and it weakens our standing abroad.
All right, next up, an indictment detaining a former House Speaker, Dennis Hastert. Let's go ahead and set it up. Well, I'm waiting. We were supposed to have a we were hoping to have a soundbite there of Dennis Hastert. Unfortunately, it's not there. So this way, I'll set it up to make it even easier. Gillum, I'm going to start with you on this one. Dennis Hastert, according to a story that came out in the Los Angeles Times late today, was paying an individual from his past to conceal sexual misconduct. I kind of feel that this is what a lot of people thought was going to happen anyway, that this was going to be the next shoe.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, when you look at this, I would say that this has been a really yet another year filled with scandal for Illinois politicians. We've already had Aaron Schock, and now we have Dennis Hastert, and this is kind of one more in a long line of scandal-filled politicians here. And while an indictment is not a conviction, these are very serious charges that are being laid down on a former Speaker of the House.
Michael, I think what happened here is a lot of people early in the day were saying, well, wait a minute now, they're going after the former speaker. They're not going after the people who were blackmailing him, and they're wondering about whether or not they were going after the wrong person. This does add another very different level to this if indeed there was sexual misconduct. And again, we don't know. That hasn't been verified yet, but it could be with someone that he was involved with as a high school wrestling coach.
Yeah, no, I think my gut tells me there's a pretty sad, horrific story at the base of all these charges right now. I think this is a good reminder not to run into every comment on every news story because you never quite know how it's going to play out. I think there's a lot darker things here. It's funny, Gilliam mentioned Aaron Schock. I mean, that really because of that resignation is why I'm a candidate now in Illinois. And the sad thing in Illinois is that these scandals don't even make the top 20 list of political scandals in Illinois.
That would have to say something about Chicago, but then again, that's another issue for another entire time, which we'll have to deal with. That's another whole set of ball of wax going on there. Speaking of politicians, interesting story about Bill Clinton. Apparently, at the 10th anniversary of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, Petra Nemcova, a Czech model who was involved in it, has a group which was raising money Now, the former president said, sure, I'll accept a Lifetime Achievement Award at your event, June 2014, but only if you give us a $500,000 contribution to the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation. Michael, what are we supposed to take from this?
Well, I don't think Bill Clinton will cross the street unless you give him money. And, you know, I'm kind of like looking forward to Hillary's campaign for president so we can find out even more of these stories. I mean, basically what you're getting is you're getting a preview of an entire network of Lifetime movies on the Clinton Foundation. They're just the grifters in chief for this country.
Yeah, but Gillum, is this really a big deal, though? Because, I mean, let's face it, Hillary Clinton, we continue to hear something, a drip, drip, drip every single day. And yet most people say, even though we don't trust Hillary Clinton, we will still vote for her for president. So is this really going to be any addition to the smoking gun that the GOP and the opponents are looking for?
Well, I think, you know, when Clinton operatives say that there's no smoking gun, that's really them just saying that, oh, well, you can't find the evidence on us yet.
True.
I think that there is the drip, 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 but it really does contribute to this narrative of this is how Clinton world operates. And the American people have said that they aren't trustworthy. And I think over time that you'll see more Americans say, you know what, they aren't trustworthy. We don't trust them. And I think that will then affect their favorability rating of the Clintons and whether they will vote for them. That can't help. This isn't going to help her favorability ratings and whether they're going to vote for her later on. And I mean, it's really a distasteful thing when Bill Clinton says, yes, I'd love to accept your award, but only if you give me $500,000. Think of how many schools the Happy Hearts Foundation could have built in Indonesia with $500,000. It's very distasteful by the former president.
Well, it is fair to say that it was enough to build 10 preschools in Indonesia at one time, is what they're talking. It was almost a quarter of the evening's net proceeds. So, Mr. Former President, please take a little less money here. 90 seconds. I got two things I want to get to very quickly. Gillum, I'm going to start with you on this one. The Draw Mohammed cartoon contest in Phoenix tonight is expected to go on. There are going to be more cops there. Aren't we smarter as a nation? I mean, as some people have said, don't continue to incite this. Yes, we want to stand for free speech, but do we really need to incite this kind of potential violence?
Well, I think if you look at the comments made by the organizer of the event, he has said that he does have a visceral hatred towards the religion of Islam.
And he is wearing a T-shirt, by the way, that says F Islam on it. And he's telling people to bring guns.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, he is allowed to have that opinion. I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong to make that opinion of a whole religion that has hundreds of millions of adherents worldwide. But he is entitled to that. But I think that this is really just kind of a juvenile, attention-grabbing stunt by this guy to really get his own name in the headlines.
To really get a lot of the billions of people, the Muslims around the world, upset. 30 seconds left. Michael, you're going to get the last one here. Feminists in San Antonio, Texas are upset about this statue. They say it is mansplaining, a term used to describe men condescendingly explaining something to a woman. It's a guy standing on a bench. There's his leg looking at the woman. Come on, is this really what we need to be upset about?
Well, no. I mean, I don't even know what mansplaining means. Wait, you just talked about, we're talking about, the Prophet Muhammad and Islam and radical Islam. You know, they put naked women on display, ISIS, to sell as sex slaves.
And here we are worried about a statue. And by the way, Michael, just so you know, mansplaining is a term used to describe men condescendingly explaining something to a woman. We're not being...
I think the feminists should just declare victory because they've clearly won.
Oh, stop. Don't go that. You're going to start up a whole new line of conversation and we don't have time. Mike Flynn, Gillum Ferguson. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great weekend. We'll do it again and stay with us because MidPoint will continue.